Hello, my name is Ofonime and welcome to another architectural rendering tutorial. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to render a Revit model in Twinmotion. I'm going to show you how to import the Revit model into Twinmotion. So if you're new to architectural rendering software, Twinmotion 2023 is a very in-depth software that is useful for you as an architect and also as a civil engineer. If you're looking to visualize your building designs, you can go on and jump on this software. So in this simple video, I'm going to show you how to import your Revit model into Twinmotion and begin visualizing your projects. So currently we are in Revit, and what I have here is a level 0 or ground floor plan of my building, but I'm going to switch to 3D now so you can see the full scale of the building that we're working with. And on Revit, in order to switch to 3D, you just go to the top taskbar here. You can see a house. It's going to be labeled 3D, so you can just go ahead and click this small house over here, and it's going to take you to the 3D view of the building model. So that we're going to figure out how we're going to move this model into Twinmotion. And there are two ways you can actually go about doing this. You can choose to export a 3D version of the file, or you can choose to create a direct link that links directly to Twinmotion, and then any edit you make in Revit can automatically be synchronized into Twinmotion, and then you can go on to edit your building and your model and try to visualize your model simultaneously like that. So I'm going to show you people the first method of how you can go about doing this, and that's by exporting this model into a 3D file that you can go on to import in Twinmotion. And in order to do that, you're going to notice that I do have all my floor plans selected from level 11, I think, yes, level 11 all the way down to level 0, which is the ground floor. But I don't want this floor plan notification or annotations to appear in the Twinmotion model. What's going to happen if you export it the way it is that the Twinmotion is going to capture these levels as well. So, and I don't want that information to show. So what I want to do first is to go and to select one of the levels in Revit and right click on one of them like this real quick, and go on to right click. You can see select all instances that are in the entire project. So every floor plan, the annotation of every floor plan, those grid lines, I'm going to actually go on to hide these features, so the export is not going to include that. So I'm going to go in here to the small glass frame that says temporarily hide or isolate. So I'm going to go on to click this button, and then I'm going to say hide element. Now we have a 3D version of the model that does not include the floor plan annotations. So it's just a plain 3D model, and this is kind of what I want to appear in Twinmotion like this. So we're going to go on to export this model now, and then on Revit I'm just going to go ahead and then click on the file menu, and in the file menu, eventually when it pops up, we're going to go into the export column and then select the export option and then choose the FBX file. You can also use IFC, but that's if you're switching to a different software like SketchUp. So I'm going to stick with Revit now, and I'm using the FBX file. So you're going to go on to select FBX, and when you select the FBX file, the dialog is going to pop up real quick, and it's going to tell you where you want to save it. For easy access, I'm going to use desktop. So I'm going to save this to desktop, change the name easily, and then choose something like 001 August Summer High-Rise Building, because that's what I called it. So I'm going to save this file. It's saved to FBX 15. So as you can see, this option is going to pop up. It's going to ask you export with the temporarily hide and isolate option. So yes, what I want to do is to leave the temporary hide and isolate mode on during export, so that those levels and level annotations do not show up. If I go on to click turn off, it's going to include what I was trying to hide in the first place. So that's the one we're going to choose. So we're going to leave the temporary hide and isolate mode on and export. Once it's done exporting, you can then go ahead and disable the temporary hide and isolate button just by clicking the frame glasses again, and then click that and just say reset temporarily hide and isolate, and all the levels are going to come back as usual. So what I'd like to do at this point is to save the project so that nothing is going to go wrong. So I'm just going to go ahead and save it as it is, and then we're going to jump into Twinmotion and see how to import that 3D model that we just exported. And then after that, I'm going to show you how we are going to direct or create a direct link between Revit and Twinmotion, and then go on to work with our project dynamically and then make changes in here, and it appears in Twinmotion. So we are live now in Twinmotion 2023, and this is the first scene that you'll be greeted with if you do get here. So what I want to do is to create a new scene, but you notice on Twinmotion 2023 that the new scene is somehow already created in the background. So what I also like to do is to go on to click the big X that is here to take us into the project that is already existing in the background. So there are other templates you can use. In Twinmotion, you can design night and sky. You can go on to work on project designs like this. You can see shoes, work tables, even wristwatches like this. I do like this one, but I don't have these ones downloaded. I'm only working with the architecture tab right now because I'm not into product design yet. So I'm going to actually try the template. So I'm going to open a new day and night architecture template in Twinmotion. So after a while it did open, and this is the Twinmotion day and night architecture scene. So it's quite nice even when there's nothing in it, and I do enjoy working in Twinmotion. It's graphically outstanding. I do enjoy this software a lot. So first, in case we don't get distracted by the big desert that we're looking at right now, I'm going to show you how to import the 3D model that we just exported before from Revit. So in Twinmotion 2023, if you're using a different version of Twinmotion, this process is going to look slightly different, but it's pretty much the same core procedure. You're going to want to click the import option, and then when you go on to click import, select the plus button, and then when you go on to select that, you can see that direct link is selected. But since we're not discussing direct link right now, I'm going to jump to the next one in geometry. You're going to go into geometry, and then in geometry you're going to select your FBX file that you just exported from Revit. So go on to click open, and then when you click open, you meet your folder. Currently this is my Revit 2022 folder, but I'm looking for the folder that is in desktop. So we're going to have that 3D model somewhere in here, 001 August summer high rise. Select that model and then click open. So when that model comes in, it's going to ask you a few questions regarding the model. Now Twinmotion has its own version of building materials, and so does Revit. So you can choose to collapse the 3D model that you're bringing into Twinmotion either by material or by hierarchy. That's by hierarchy, I mean if you have a roof element, the roof is going to have a folder where there are all the roof members like purlines, king post, and all this stuff. And then the floor is going to have the floor tiles, and then the concrete floor. That's basically how the hierarchy is going to work. But I'm going to go on to select collapse all, so it's collapse everything into the tiniest detail, and then I can start applying materials to each of these elements should I choose to want to do that. So I'm going to select collapse all, and then we're going to go to full precision normals. I usually leave this unchecked, but I can allow the full precision's UV selection. Once you verify all the geometry settings, you can go ahead and then click import. Just before the material begins importing, it's going to show you a material conflict dialog box where you're going to be asked either to choose between the scene material or the imported material from Revit, or you can choose to keep both materials. In this exercise, I'm actually going to use the imported material from Revit, and then we can work with that and then use that to actually remodel the structure. So once the import is complete, you'd see the model in your Twinmotion screen. I can zoom out. Currently we're inside the building, but I can actually zoom out to show you the full scale of the building that we're working with. So you notice that every single material in the building is currently orange. That's because since we're using an FBX file, we did not import everything as it should come in from Revit. So everything has this orange material, and then if you use the FBX method to actually import your 3D model, you have to go on to apply your material based on the Twinmotion material. So you're going to drag and drop Twinmotion materials into the Revit model that you're seeing here that we've imported into Twinmotion now. So I'm going to show you an example real quick before we move into the other method of how to import a building from Revit into Twinmotion. So to do this, I'm going to first drag the material for the walls. I want the wall to be some sort of brick wall on the ground floor here. I'm going to pick something like brick because I think that's what I use on Revit as well. So on Twinmotion, you have different styles of brick. I'm going to go all the way back to library. You can go into material and then look for the brick material, and then you're going to see different classes of brick. There's clean brick, there's dirty brick as well, there's old brick, and there's rough brick, cinder block brick, different styles of brick. You can actually go on to choose one of them. I'm going to pick one random clean brick that has this red and then maroon pattern on the body. So I'm going to choose this one method. Just drag it real quick and then drop it onto the surface of the building, and there you go. So it's in there, but you notice that it looks really tiny compared to how we want the actual brick to look. So I'm going to go on to increase the scale of this brick pattern so it comes out the way I want it to be. So on the right hand panel here, where we do have properties and scene, you're going to see menu properties of the material that you just dropped in. So you can see there's a ball here showing you the material in brick. It looks like a brick, unlike the one that is on the screen for us to see here. It looks like a brick, and then the color is somewhat peach. I don't really know if that's peach, but going all the way down to the scale, under the UV column, you're going to see scale. Scale has a unit of 1.0, so we're going to pull that all the way up. You can use the slider, or you can type in the number in here. I can type in the number to, let's say, multiply the scale by 2, and the brick changes size, but we don't really notice because it's not enough yet. So we can use the slider, actually drag it all the way up, and you can increase the size, the scale of that brick, and you can see that the further and the higher we go, the more the brick starts to become visible for us to see. So the scale of the brick actually becomes visible now. So going all the way to 10, we do have the number that we're looking for. In fact, I think I'm going to increase it beyond 10. So the limit for the slider is actually 10, but if you want to go beyond the slider, you can go into the number and then type in a different number. So I'm going to try to, oops, not 112.5. And yeah, I think I like this one. It looks better, so I'm going to leave it at 12.5, and that's going to give us the style of brick that we're looking for this building. Now you can also go on to, as you can notice that I've clicked away from the brick and away from the wall and the material. In order to go back to that, you can go up to this top menu here. You're going to see the material picker, click on that, and then it can allow you just choose the brick once again. And I'm going to show you how to use the material picker to actually continue applying materials to all of the elements. And since we're back on the brick, we can now find what we're looking for. I'm looking for the grunge. It's under the color pattern, so the color is something called peach. I don't know if this is exactly pink and peach, correct me if I'm wrong, but go into the grunge. And I like to do this for exterior surfaces, but grunge tends to add this roughness to the material that you're working in. So watch what happens to the brick when I increase the grunge all the way down to 100. So it starts to look rough and weary and wounded, really. And I'm not going to allow it to be so intense like 100%. We're going to allow something beyond the realms of 30, 33 or 32%. I think that's fine. It gives you some realistic texture to the material that you're working with. So zooming all the way out to the building, you can now see that we're starting to get that roughness and that edge to the brick that we're looking for. The brick has been applied to all other materials or every other region where we need brick to be. So all the way to the top, we do have brick selected. So I noticed that my brick is too bright. I can go onto the luminosity just below grunge and then decrease that color intensity or luminosity of the brick pattern, and then I can drag it all the way down. It starts to get darker and darker, starting into black now. I don't want it to be black, so I'm going to take it all into within the realm of same like 32, 33. I think that's fine. And then now we're going to leave the brick for now. And then in order to apply another material, I think we're going to work with the glass now. And using the material picker, you can see that it's still selected in my hand, and go into the glass pattern. The windows are supposed to have glass windows, so we're going to click one of the windows that is glass. You can see here it remembers the Revit material project object glass. So now we've selected the glass, we can go into the material library and then switch to glass. Under the materials, go into material as well in the library, select glass, and then you have different styles of glass as well, even colored glass and reflective glass, mirror glass as well. I'm going to choose the reflective glass. I'm going to choose the reflective glass in this sense. So just hold on to the reflective glass and then drag it. Now instead of dropping the glass on the windows that I would normally do, you can also just take it to the ball on the right hand side. So I'm going to avoid this side and then go all the way, drop it on the project glass material that we selected when we're using the material picker. Drop that on there, and then you notice that it's going to actually apply this material to the entire building. So now all our building is, all the glass in our building now comes to life. So we do have our reflective glass on the building, and the building starts to take shape. So this process is actually much longer if you have a lot of time to spend and actually go into the detail of visualizing your building. It's a fun process as well. It's not just time consuming, it's actually an interesting process to actually go through using Twinmotion to actually visualize your architectural model like this. It takes a lot of time to do, but it's oddly satisfying as well, and I do enjoy spending time in Twinmotion like this. Now you notice that we're in the middle of a desert, so there's actually a way to include environment in Twinmotion, but that's not the purpose of this video. That's an entirely new video altogether. And if you do want to see that video, do let me know in the comment section. I'm going to go on to create a video just like that to work on the environment. So now for the next section of this video, I'm going to show you how to import a Revit model directly into Twinmotion and then have a dynamic workflow where you can make changes on Revit and then it's automatically applied in Twinmotion. We use a direct link between Datasmith, Twinmotion and Revit. So welcome back, and we are here again in Revit, and I have the same model, but this time we're going to do a direct link to Twinmotion. And in order to do this, you're going to need a direct link from the Twinmotion website. You can actually go on to download it, and then once you're done downloading and installing that direct link, you have the Datasmith Twinmotion link like a plugin in Revit, so you can actually go on to use this menu to export your Revit model as a Datasmith file. So you can, it's like export but within export for Twinmotion. So we're going to click the export to Datasmith file. Now the first thing it's going to do is to ask us where we want to save our export to. So I'm going to choose desktop because it's the easiest place to actually go on to find stuff on your laptop or your computer in case you want to go on to delete it later. It's quite easy to navigate through the desktop, so I'm going to just leave it there and allow it to save. And once the export is done, we're going to need to jump back into Twinmotion to link both softwares together and then start the dynamic visualization of our architectural model. So we're back here in Twinmotion, and first I'm going to delete this pedestal and sphere that is in here. So just go on, on Twinmotion, they are packed in one folder. So there's a starting base, and then you have the pedestal, the cylinder, and the graphics. I'm just going to select the main folder here in starting base and then hit delete on the keyboard. And then we can go over to import, but this time instead of using geometry, we're going to use direct link. So if you go on to select direct link, you can see that the direct source has already been captured because we've exported it into Twinmotion. Mind you, both softwares do have to be open. I kind of prefer this method, having both sources open, so we don't have a lot of problems while importing files. So once we have Revit selected, it's going to capture that in Twinmotion, and then you can see collapse by material just like before. I'm going to select collapse by all materials this time around, so everything's just going to go down to every item that needs to be in a folder, like we saw the pedestal and the sphere and all this stuff. So once you select, I'm going to choose collapse all. The lighting, I'm going to use the original lighting, and substitutions, I'm not going to touch any of those, but that's material substitution between Revit and Twinmotion. I'm going to allow it to use the original, not alter anything in there, and now I'm going to hit import. Now you're going to see that there's a breaking chain link, and the reason why this is because we need to synchronize both softwares to actually have all the materials exported within Twinmotion and Revit, so working hand in hand. So we're going to go back into Revit. Now that we're here in Revit, all we have to do is to go on to hit the synchronize button, since both softwares are actually linked by this model, and then it's waiting for us to actually export the files and synchronize them together to become one. So go on to hit the synchronize with the direct link. Once that's done, we can jump back into Twinmotion. Now that we're here in Twinmotion, while the synchronization is occurring, we just have to wait for it to happen. And there we go, direct link is processing, and once that's done, we're going to see our building model in here in Twinmotion. Yeah, so the processing is done, and here we go. We have our building in there, and observe that this time around we don't have an orange material over the building. We do have the building with glass, reflective glass in kind of blue shade, sea blue, and I like that. So we have the earth, and then you can see the road. From the model, you can see the ground that is supposed to be earth, so it's using the Revit materials to actually do that. You can also see that I do have my door opening instead of a traditional door from Revit, and I'm going to explain why in a little bit, why I did door opening instead of normal doors like and windows, or like we did windows. So for here you can see the ground surface. You can zoom in real quick and then see the Revit material for ground. You can replace this with the Twinmotion material like we did before, using the glass and the brick wall for the previous example. You can just follow the same procedure and then apply your Twinmotion materials should you want to replace the Revit material. But I do like the Revit brick, it's quite nice to look at. It's slightly more realistic, but it's too generic, so in case you want to change it, you can feel free to go to the material and then bring a new material for your brick to replace this one. But I'm going to leave it here, and then we're going to get to why I did this door opening instead of doors. Twinmotion has a very interesting door object which is animated and it's quite realistic, so I kept door opening so that I can apply Twinmotion doors instead of Revit doors. So if you go into your objects and then go into doors, right below here in the library, in the door panel you can see rotating doors and sliding doors, but I'm going to choose rotating doors for this one, and then I'm going to look for something quite nice for an external door. I like this one, but I'm going to look for something that is not completely glass, so somebody's not going to run through it thinking that, you know, let's not discuss that. And then going for the rotating doors that have horizontal lines, I'm going to just check this one, go on and drag it into the model. And then you can see just when we hover over the door opening, Revit or Twinmotion starts to understand that there's a door that is supposed to be placed here. So once you latch the door onto that door opening, it's going to just jam, and so we have a door in that space now. So that's why I chose to use door openings instead of Revit doors, and it's a neat way to actually go on to do this. And then if you walk closer to the door now using your W key, the door actually opens and welcomes you into the building. So you can see that currently in the building we do have our ceilings from Revit. It's not orange like before. We do have our walls, and there are more door openings inside, so you can go on to assign more doors to this place. Let me try it from inside here. I'm going to just drag this door just like we did for the previous one. Yep, where are we? And there we go. It's going to latch onto that, and we have another door placed, and we can try to get out of the building now. Here we go. Wonderful. So that's exactly what I'm looking for. So that's kind of also why I chose to use door openings instead of just traditional doors in Revit. Now I can actually rotate this door to bring it from the left hand side to the right hand side, because I noticed that it's swinging this other way. Okay, I do like this method, so I think I'm going to leave it that way. It's the other one I need to change, the one that is opening outwards, and I hope it's possible to actually go on to change that. So if I go on to select this door now, I can scroll to the door properties and find anything that helps me go on to change this. So the door opens inward, so since it's inward and it's appearing outward here, we just have to click the opposite. So open outward, and then yeah, it now goes the other way. So that's how basically how the door works in this situation. I should try to flip this door, but that's just going to make this video excessively long. I do get drawn into Twinmotion and sidetracked by so many features that you can go on to use, and it's an interesting software to actually work with. But basically you've seen how you can go on to import a Revit model in Twinmotion and then operate dynamically. Okay, I think that's the one that we haven't discussed. So how to actually make this model dynamic. So what's going to happen, I'm going to jump into Revit real quick. So in order to prove to you that this model is actually dynamic, I'm going to go on to make a change to the Revit model. So in Revit, I'm going to actually take out one of these windows so you'd see exactly what I mean. So I'm going to just select one window here that is close to the entrance door that we have, or one of the entrance doors. Once that window is selected, and then I'm going to go on to hit delete on the keyboard, and then I'm going to remove that window from the building completely. And then if we go again into Datasmith and try to synchronize the building, you see that that model, the building is going to actually lose the window that we're going on to delete. So that's how you can work with Twinmotion dynamically with Revit all together one by one. You can go on to make changes to your model. Even I'm also going to make a change to this floor that is here. I think it's not big enough like I want it to be. This parking lot kind of garage. So I'm going to edit the boundary of this one, and then we're going to see here on, yeah, just trying to move this building a bit and zoom out a little bit as well, and to select this building, the parking lot line, and I'm going to drag it all the way out like this. Give me like 28, I think that's fine, and then drop that in there, and then go on to accept the new boundary. So we now have a new floor. Oops, the surface is kind of wonky in this sense. That's something we can go on to edit in the topo surface. So I'm going to make those changes real quick. This surface here, I'm going to move the point to a different location, move this point to a different location, just to bring that surface out and make it show up. So it's getting harder and harder. Okay, what I'm going to do is to place a point at elevation 2 minus 2.5 or 2.0. I'm going to place that elevation somewhere to actually bring the surface to life, so that way the surface actually goes underneath the parking lots. So that's basically Revit surface. It's not what we're supposed to do today, but that's to bring the surface back to life. And then we've gone on to make our changes, and we're going to go into Twinmotion and see how these changes can actually affect. So the first thing we do is to go on to click the synchronize button. Remember, hit synchronize, then jump into Twinmotion. So while we're in Twinmotion, data processing, the direct link is processing, and then hopefully we're going to see those changes. Well, I do know it's going to work, because that's kind of how the dynamic processing works. So you can see that we no longer have a window where we had a window before. That window has been replaced by, well, a wall completely now. So there's still a window pane, so that's a lot of editing for you to do. And then for us to now go out of the building and then see our parking lot if it has gone on to increase in size. So yeah, we do have a bigger parking lot now that we can work with, but you can see that we still have trouble with the surface here. So I do need to do a lot more work on this surface to actually take the surface beneath the parking lots. So that has a lot to do with topography and everything. But that's basically how you can go on to import a model from Revit into Twinmotion and then work with the model directly, make changes to the model in Revit, and then synchronize the changes to happen in Twinmotion at the same time. It's quite an interesting tool to work with Twinmotion. I do enjoy using it, and it takes a lot of time to actually spend in here, and you'll be enjoying yourself. That's probably why it takes a lot of time. There's a lot to do, and there's so many options for you to work with and try to bring the best out of your model and then bring a realistic visual to your Twinmotion Revit model that you actually imported. So if you do find this video useful, do let me know in the comment section, and I'm going to come back with more Revit tutorials like this. So if you're new to the channel, remember to check the channel more often and subscribe in case you haven't. And then if you need to know a little bit more about Twinmotion and Autodesk Revit and architectural visualizations in general, do check out the channel very often. I'll see you in the next video.